Today I have a very special surprise for you. So usually the books that I review are ones that you can buy, and I'll place the link down below for the Amazon so that you can buy that book. But today I'm going to be reviewing a book that is very, very different. So this book, The Art of Money Getting by P.T. Barnum. This man was the first person to inspire me, well, the second really, because Adi Geller from No Coins Please was the first book that really inspired me to go on this journey. But P.T. Barnum was the first person that really helped me to understand what I needed to do in order to start that journey. And so this book here was the inspiration for me to really go out and start implementing some of the things that he speaks about in this book. So this book is not available unless you go to, I think it's called Kissinger Publishing, because it's no longer in print. But this book is amazing. So it was written when P.T. Barnum was in his 70s and he had just lost everything, or in the late 60s, but he'd lost everything at a later age in life. And his friends urged him he should go and talk about how to make money. And he said, but I've just lost everything. How do I have the right to talk about how to make money? But just previous to that, he had been a multi-millionaire in a time when $1 million was so much more than it is today. Now in this book, he will talk about the fact that we need to choose the right place to make money. So very often what happens is that we think that only physicists, biologists, chemists, literature writers are geniuses. But literally everybody has some kind of genius. And he was one of the first people to talk about this. You need to find what it is that you love and go out and do those things that you love, because that's where you're most likely to make money. And so I used to have a friend who did something that made a lot of money, but he didn't find any joy or fulfillment in it. And so he ended up having a stroke, and a lot of other bad things happened until he turned that around and decided that it was time for him to do something that he did love. So this book was written at a time when he didn't write it as the popular view of what most people wanted to hear. He wrote what his real experiences were, and not from a commercial point of view, even though he did do it to make money. But he literally wrote down his own real life experiences of what he really did. It wasn't edited in order to be able to be made more palatable for the reader. Sold. So this book is a very, very old school book, and that's probably why it's no longer available, because not that many people are interested in the lessons from it. But it is a super important and super valuable book. So he talks about avoiding debt, he talks about persevering, but he also talks about making sure that you are involved in the process. So very often people will outsource, which is okay. You need to be able to outsource because you cannot do anything on your own, but you need to still be a part of the process, and you need to be the one who understands. I used to know a restaurant owner who didn't know how to do the closing of his computer system at the end of the day. And one day one of the staff left, upset about something, and then more staff started to leave, and he needed to do the closing together with his manager. And I think out of the 3 managers, only one was left, and they noticed that he didn't know how to run his own computer system. And so then that manager left as well, and within 1 or 2 days he had lost his entire business because they'd lost faith in the fact that he knew what he was doing. So you want to make sure that you always show that confidence of knowing what you are doing and being a part of the process and knowing what's happening. He also talks about learning something useful and continuing to learn. He will talk about systematic thinking and how that's really important. He talks about charitable, being charitable, because he was extremely charitable. But he also talks about making sure that you are not talking behind people's back, being polite to the customer. And he will also talk about advertising, and he was the absolute king of advertising. So this here is an absolutely amazing book that I highly, highly recommend. And I'm not going to be able to put the link down below, but we might talk about it more in future, because I think that this is a brilliant book that is extremely important for everybody to be able to understand. So lots of really great valuable lessons. So I give this a 6 out of 5, maybe even a 7. I'm going to give it 100 out of 5. Highly recommend. And yes, we'll just leave it at that, I suppose. So Remember to make the switch to unlock your rich, because there is a faster and more effective way to doing absolutely everything. And this book actually talks about many of those little things that are going to make such a big impact. So remember to keep going out there and showing up in the world and doing things that are going to get you to your goals and dreams.